Most people will tell you that the bigger your salary is, the better your chances are to become a millionaire. Well, turns out that's wrong. Take a look. Doctors are arguably the highest paid professionals in America, and a new study by Ramsey Solutions found that teachers are becoming millionaires more often than doctors. Now, as soon as I saw this report, I did two things. Number one, I sent this report to my parents because growing up in a traditional Indian house, you were required to become a doctor if you want to become financially successful, and instead of becoming a doctor, I started making videos on YouTube. How you doing? And then second, I dug into the report to see what the heck is going on. Now, just so we're on the same page, the average public teacher salary in the United States is $66,000 a year according to USA Facts. And the average primary care physician in the United States is making $265,000 a year, and this is according to the White Coat Investor. Now, what I learned in school is that this number is bigger than this number, so naturally the person making the bigger number is going to be more wealthy, right? Well, this study says something a little bit different. Now, if you dig into the Ramsey Solutions study, and yes, this is Dave Ramsey's company, what you'll see is that the top 5 careers for millionaires are engineering, accounting, teaching, management, and attorneys. Now, did you notice that out of those top 5 careers, none of them include a doctor, but it did include teachers? This is where you're probably wondering, well, who's the sample size in the study? And by the way, I will link this article for you down in the description as well. And what it says is that this Ramsey Solutions study was done with over 10,000 United States millionaires. And over half, or 52% of the millionaires in this study earned a master's or doctoral degree compared to 13% of the general population. So while the study didn't say exactly how many doctors they studied, you have to imagine that there's got to be at least some doctors in the study, and the teachers in the study were outperforming the doctors at becoming a millionaire. But this is where things really start to get fun, because what the study says is that only 31% of the millionaires in the study averaged $100,000 a year over the course of their career, and 1/3 of them never made 6 figures in any single working year of their career. That means out of the thousands of millionaires that were surveyed in the study, 1 out of 3 out of those millionaires never made more than $100,000 in a year. So if it wasn't the big salary that made them rich and wealthy, what was it? Well, it came down to 2 things. It came down to consistent investing, keyword consistent, and the second thing was smart spending. The common trend amongst the millionaires in this study wasn't that they grew up with rich parents. It wasn't that they grew up with a bunch of financial education. It was that they made that conscious decision to want to become wealthy in their lifetime, and they changed their lifestyles because of it. Take a look. 8 out of 10 millionaires come from families at or below middle income level. Only 2% of the millionaires surveyed said they came from an upper income family. Once these people made that conscious decision to want to become wealthy, it was the consistent investing that allowed them to become wealthy. It wasn't them going out and finding a huge chunk of cash, starting to invest it, and waiting all this time to start investing. It was starting to invest with small amounts of money and continuing to invest again and again and again, week after week after week, month after month after month, recession after recession after recession. It does not matter if you're going through a market boom or a market crash. You just continue to keep investing, and you just keep doing it year after year after year, decade after decade after decade. 75% of the millionaires in the study said that this consistent investing was what allowed them to become a millionaire in their lifetime, even if they weren't making a big salary. Now, before we dig deeper with number 2, if you do want to learn more about how to start investing your money and how to start building your financial education, we have this free ebook at Briefs Media called How to Build Wealth as an Investor that will walk you through the basics of, number 1, how do you build a wealthy mindset, to then how do you start investing? How do you start generating cash flow? How do you spend your money smartly? How can you earn more money smartly? And how can you protect your assets? This ebook is completely free, and if you want to read this ebook, I got the link for you down in the description below. Now, this is where the smart spending ties into the consistent investing, because when it came to the smart spending, in order for people to be investors, they had to spend their money smartly. That meant they weren't going out and eating at fancy restaurants. They weren't going out and financing these fancy vacations. They weren't going out and blowing money on things like fancy cars that they couldn't afford. They lived within their lifestyle, and within the lifestyle meant not only did I not spend all my money, but I spent less than all the money that I generated. That way I had money to keep investing. And a big difference now between the high income earners and, let's just say, the average income earners wasn't just the income, but also now the cost to get that income. Take a look. This national study of millionaires showed that it's the degree itself that matters, not where the degree comes from. Almost 2/3 of millionaires graduated from a public state school, while only 8% went to a prestigious private school, but the bulk of millionaires did get that piece of paper. And the reason why this information matters is because of none other than student loans. This is from educationdata.org, and what it says is that the average physician ultimately pays $135,000 to $440,000 for an educational loan plus interest. So now if you look at the numbers, if you go out and become a doctor, you might be making $265,000 a year, but the cost in order to get this $265,000 a year salary is going to be somewhere between $135,000 to $440,000. Could it be less? Sure. Could it be more? Sure. But then you have the second part, beyond just the student loans that you got to pay back plus interest, which is you got to live the doctor lifestyle. This is an article by Healthcare Communications Network and is titled, Why Doctors Go Broke and How to Avoid It. And the subheader of this article is that physicians are trapped between high earnings and high expenditures. This now goes back to the smart spending point that I was talking about just a minute ago. If you're making money and you spend all of your money, it doesn't really matter how much money you make because you have no money to consistently invest. And what we're seeing now from a number of studies is that you have some doctors, again, this does not apply to every single doctor, but you have some doctors who don't have financial education. Now that is very unfortunate because you go through all this schooling to make a high income, but you never learn along the way how to manage your money, how to invest your money, how to grow your money, and how to protect your money, because most schools don't teach any sort of financial education. So now you go through all these years in school, you go and spend all this money to get your degree, you go and become a doctor, now you're in your 30s, after going through all this schooling, you finally start to make a good salary that you worked so hard to get. And then you got to start paying back your student loans. And then naturally, you see everybody else around you driving in a nice BMW, driving in a nice G-Wagon, driving in these nice cars, having big homes, having these nice vacations. And now you naturally think that that's the normal thing to do because every other doctor is doing that because you're making a big salary. And of course, you can buy it because you're making the big salary to do that. But then if you're never taught what to actually do with the money, well, now you make a lot of money, but you're also spending a lot of money and you have no money to consistently invest. And this is where, again, it goes back to the core of all the videos that I've been talking about. It's not just how much money you make that matters. It's what you do with the money that you make. Can you become a millionaire as a doctor? Absolutely. Can you become a millionaire as a teacher? Absolutely. But it's not just the salary that matters. It's what you do with the money that you make. We need doctors who want to be doctors. We need good doctors who care about their patients. We do not need doctors who are going out to become doctors to make big salaries and to make the big bucks, because that's what every Indian household is forcing their kids to do. Sorry, mom and dad, but that's what every Indian household is trying to do along with a lot of other families. But this is where understanding that you can become financially wealthy with the right financial education. Can a bigger salary help? You bet it can. But the bigger salary can only help you if you understand how to use your money the right way. So if you want to become a doctor, please go out and become a doctor and provide good health care to people that need it. But if you want to also become wealthy, which is what everybody should want to do, you have to also start learning on the financial education side of things as well. We talk about building a business that's scalable. I've talked about that many times, where you want to build something that can grow, that doesn't necessarily need you. That's the definition of scalability, that it can grow and it doesn't necessarily need you to grow. But if you want that business to be able to grow and not need you to grow, you have to do things that can't grow. The